Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Why are you being so nice to me? Can't just be because I remind you of some sad Bulgarian clown.
You remind me of my mother.
Oh. Really? You know that. I mean, you and I are pretty close in age.
You're funny. It's the Bulgarian clown in you.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show, strangely on a Sunday and even more strangely a 7:45.
Yeah.
This reminds us of the old days, this. When we used to do the show at 7:30.
Yeah, it's still light outside.
Yeah, I know, it's going to be light outside until about 10 o'clock, so...
This is midday lightness. This is I feel quite awake. No, I still feel knackered.
Well, yeah. The whole reason why we are doing the show
voice.
this early, especially a day early and time early, is because the fact that E3 is rearing its ugly head. It kicks off in about an hour and 15 minutes time with EA's press conference, and so with me being involved with stuff to do with E3, I've had to move the show around just slightly. So we brought it a day forward. We brought it about an hour and a half forward as well, just so I can concentrate on video games for the next few days. So there'll be a special following the Gamer Show on Tuesday, which is probably going to be about 3 hours long.
Yeah, I expect so. Are you and the guys all looking forward to it, or are you dreading it a bit?
It depends on what's announced, but it's been leaked central, but that's video game stuff, so we'll keep that for following the Gamer on Tuesday. Now, we're here anyway to do things about movies, so on this week's show, in the cinema section, it isn't like a big week when it comes to movies, so it should be a very straightforward show. We're looking at these three films.
Yeah, we have the movie from the director of, is it New Year's Day and Valentine's Day?
Yes.
It's moving on to another holiday, Mother's Day. We have Melissa McCarthy back in The Boss, and we have a Studio Ghibli clip. I was actually going to try and get a thing, something like that, but I didn't get a chance to do it for us saying the last Studio Ghibli film. I should have got like a something like that.
No, because I would have killed you, because that would have been making you sound very patronising.
Yeah, but that's When Marnie Was There.
Yeah, because it is a... Ow, I've just kicked my desk there. It is a heroic day. Historic day. It's an historic day for me for the worst reasons. It would be like for people who are a huge fan of Disney and they turn around and go, you know what, we're not doing any more animated films. So it is that kind of thing for me anyway. On Blu-ray and DVD, however, we have quite a few films. All of them actually quite big ones as well.
Yeah.
These 6 films.
Ryan Reynolds is the Merc with the mouth in Deadpool. We have the remake, the big thing with the all new cast, obviously, because most of the old cast, unfortunately, are no longer around. Dad's Army. We have True Story with 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. We have a remake with Point Break. We have another kind of true story thing, disaster sort of thing happening with The Finest Hour, and we have a weird take on the Western with Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, we have also the TV movie of the week, the overall movie of the week, the Blu-ray and DVD top 10, the UK box office top 10, and before we kick off with the movie news, click the little speech bubble in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. That's where you'll find the live chat you can get involved with tonight's show. So as I said, we'll kick things off with some movie news. Not a very big week when it comes to news. There's only a few stories hanging around. The one which is not technically news, because we could have mentioned it in the box office top 10, but it's the fact that the Warcraft movie, even though it's not doing very well in the US, it's doing astronomically brilliant everywhere else. As a matter of fact, it's taken $156 million in the Chinese box office, which is a record.
Yeah, well, it's not that it's not doing well in America. It's kind of doing all right, because it went up against 2 other big films, both of which were sequels. The other being Conjuring 2 and Now You See Me 2, and it beat Now You See Me 2. So it's split between the 3 of them. That's what are you looking at there? The total for all 3 of them was about 100 million, taking for the whole weekend.
Yeah, but considering that Warcraft is owned by Blizzard, And Blizzard is a huge, massive American company, and the Warcraft brand has been going on for 10 plus years, whereas The Conjuring, the first one, came out in 2013. Now You See Me, the first one came out in 2014. So they're sort of like newer properties compared to Warcraft, and you would have expected a Warcraft film to do much better than it has in America. Whereas in China, considering they're not much of a Warcraft fan, they're more things like Dota and those kind of games there, it's just staggering to see that it's done that well. It's probably down to the fact that it's backed by China.
I think it is quite a big popular game there, but also bear in mind, I mean, I'm just looking at the stats now of it on Box Office Mojo. It's taken worldwide $286 million, which is no small feat considering its budget was 160. So it's close to taking back, doing that whole thing of supposedly a film, in order for it to do well at the box office, needs to take back double its budget. It's almost there. And that's, bear in mind, only the opening weekend in America. It's still got to open in Japan, which will probably...
They're a StarCraft...
but there will still be enough people. I think the Japan opening will probably be around about the $40-50 million mark.
No, I don't think movies don't do that well in Japan. For example, if you look at Spirited Away, Studio Ghibli, I know that broke records for animation, and that took $10 million. And so movies don't do as big money as you might think they do in Japan, as they do. The sort of like the best way to look at Japan is very much like the UK. So look at numbers of how films perform in the UK. That's the best way to look at Japanese numbers. It's China who's sort of like now pretty much the biggest money takers actually in the world, overtaking the US. So, but on other movie news, Showbiz 411 are reporting that a few more actresses may be joining the cast of the all-female spin-off of the Ocean's 11 film. Set to join Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett will be Helena Bonham Carter, Mindy Kaling, and Elizabeth Banks.
So has Elizabeth Banks now been confirmed? Because I did see that she wanted in on it. I didn't know if she'd been sort of offered it or anything, or if she was just building up interest.
She's been offered.
So she's been offered. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see how this. I actually have really no interest in doing this as a female version of Expendables. Just do a female action film. It doesn't have to be a female Expendables. It doesn't have to be a female anything. Just have a film with all the characters being women. It kind of negates the point of it doing it that way. If it's just a film and they just happen to be women, fine.
I think they're calling it Ocean's 8.
I'm thinking about the Expendables thing and all, because I mean there's that supposed to be happening too, isn't there? So.
Yeah, so I think they're calling it Ocean's 8 because it's supposedly not going to centre around 11.
Yeah, that's the 8 then. That's 8.
It's supposed to centre around 8.
8 is Spanish, so it's going to be set in Spain then.
So yeah, that's what I've seen anyway. When they announced that Elizabeth Banks has been approached and in talks with it, there was also the indication that it might be called Ocean's 8.
Okay, so who's been confirmed for this then?
It is Sandra Bullock, Cate Blanchett, and now Helena Bonham Carter, Mindy Kaling, and supposedly Elizabeth Banks. Okay,
I'm throwing my money in the ring now and saying that Selma Hayek is going to be announced at some point. Especially if it's going to be Spanish, they'll play to her being she can play Spanish very easily.
And they'll probably try to approach somebody like a Jennifer Lawrence or something like that.
Yeah. Oh no, not Jennifer Lawrence. What's her name? Gomez.
Selena Gomez?
No, I'm thinking Gomez, not Gomez. It'll come to me in a minute.
That's pushing it.
Vanilla Sky.
Oh, Penelope Cruz.
Why was I thinking? No, okay. Gomez.
We'll see anyway. The Wrap are reporting that Universal have brought in scriptwriter Lisa Joy to make some rewrites on the Battlestar Galactica film script. It's also been reported that Francis Lawrence, who did the last few Hunger Games films, has been approached to direct the film after Bryan Singer stepped away from the project.
Right, I had no problem with him being cast because he is a solid director. I think he did a good job on the Hunger Games films. Nothing against him for the story or the writing of them. The films themselves were really well directed. So yeah.
Yeah, same here. I think it's a better choice than Bryan Singer.
I think Bryan Singer. he has this thing where if it's something that's to do with people and characters and that have abilities, that is fine. But if it's to do with space and stuff, I think he'd struggle because he's not very good at kind of the technical stuff. He's good at like superpowers, about the characters in it. So he'd be good at the characters, but I think that the action sequences would be dull.
I think though Francis Lawrence is better at characters though.
I think they're both good at characters. I think Francis Lawrence is good at the technical thing because you had the whole thing of the whole Hunger Games side of those films, and how the whole thing of the traps and stuff that worked really well visually. Yeah.
I'm going to leave this slightly silly story to last because you know me, I like to end off on a slightly silly story. So 2 other small pieces of news. Suicide Squad is officially being given a PG-13 in America, so that indicates it's probably going to be a 12 over here.
Boring.
I know. They weren't brave enough.
No, I think that's going to be a flop anyway. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near what they want it to be.
It's going to do a Hunger Games where it's 12 in the cinema, 15 on Blu-ray DVD, so it can add in a few extra scenes. That's what it's going to do.
Yeah.
John Williams has confirmed that he will be scoring Star Wars Episode 8 and Indiana Jones 5.
Okay, good.
Yep, good.
Yeah.
And the final piece of news, so we'll rattle through all of this stuff. It's this silly piece of news. THR are reporting that Mel Gibson is actively pushing a sequel to his 2004 violent film, The Passion of the Christ. So he wants to make a sequel to The Passion of the Christ called The Resurrection of Christ.
So he's going to do the whole Easter story then?
Pretty much.
It probably will happen. Just knowing that kind of stuff, it's crazy. That's probably is what we will get. That I guarantee. I'm pretty sure now.
Yeah, he's also obviously going to get the script writer as well, who did The Passion of the Christ, to do the script for this as well. So
is it going to have anti-Semitic messages slashed all over the screen all the way through it as well?
Pretty much. It's going to be stupidly violent as well. So we'll go on to the UK box office top 10 then, and before we get into that, I just wanted to mention the film Misconduct. We didn't review it on last week's show. It was only released in 5 sites and took £97. That's the film that stars Anthony Hopkins, Al Pacino and Josh Duhamel.
And if I'm correct, I think it's being released next week on DVD?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's a film. I think it was a quick cinema in small things, and then a download and DVD. It might actually be download now already. I'm not sure, but definitely, yeah.
But even though you've got somebody like Al Pacino and Anthony Hopkins in your film, doesn't mean that it's going to do well at all. So £97, that's ridiculous. Into the box office top 10 then, and starting number 10 is a new entry for Bollywood film Houseful 3.
Yeah, I'm just looking at details for that because I haven't seen anything about this, but it just says a father doesn't want his 3 daughters to get married. Now it's up to 3 men to try and convince the father that they're good fit for his daughters. So obviously it's going to be the whole Bollywood singing, dancing thing of a man trying to convince another man that he's suitable for one of his 3 daughters.
Yeah, from what I could read about it as well, is it's not the third in the series. It's just called Houseful 3 because there's 3 daughters, 3 people who were trying to go after the 3 daughters, and the fact that it was released on June the 3rd. So they really went with the 3 motif, didn't they?
So let me guess, the next one's going to be like Houseful 2 then, and one of them's been married. One of them gets married. It's going to be 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3, which is quite.
Dusty Bin's going to be the last one to be married to one of them.
Oh, you're going to have to explain that joke to the people that are under 20. 25.
Anybody in the US as well. It was just a game show which involved one of the characters called Dusty Bin, which, as you can probably guess, was a bin that was given away with a prize on a sort of like those variety kind of game shows that the UK used to show in the 70s.
You're really showing our ages here.
Well, I wasn't born in the 70s, but I even know because it was actually on.
I was.
Well, still, I think you would have been too young to know what it was from when it actually started.
No, I remember seeing it when I was younger with Ted.
Same here. At number 9 is Money Monster.
I couldn't quite enjoy this, largely because of Jack O'Connell, who is the standout thing in the film. It's really disappointing. Julia Roberts is, I think, completely miscast, as I think she is a lot of the time. George Clooney is good and on good form, but not his best form. It has got some sort of nice writing, and the beginning of it is better than the end. It struggles as it kind of goes through a change at one point and then becomes a different kind of film, but it's entertaining for the hour and a half that it's on. It could have been and should have been so much more. It's not reaching the heights that things like sort of equal sort of things like Phone Booth reached.
Yeah, before we get on to the next one, I've just seen the poster for the new Ghostbusters film, and oh god, it's awful. It's not as bad as the have you heard the Fall Out Boy version of the theme tune?
No, I've avoided it.
God.
I've just avoided it. I'm not into Ghostbusters at all, but I'm just avoiding it altogether. You're reviewing it when it comes out. I am not even going to see it.
I know that, but honestly, just listen to the first 30 seconds and you know the iconic theme tune to Ghostbusters. Listen to what they've done with that. It's just some of the worst stuff I've ever heard. It's that bad. Number 8 is The Jungle Book,
which I really, really enjoyed as a visual thing, but also a good storytelling story, and an adaptation of The Jungle Book, which takes elements from the book and elements from the well-established Disney animation. And Jon Favreau's done an amazing thing of collaborating all this together and making it basically into just an incredible roller coaster of sequences that are just groundbreaking and visual. I saw it in a big massive thing called a super screen, which has the sound pumped up way to 11, and I was just sat there for the 2 hours and was pummeled in my seat and walked out of it, and I was just like, wow, that was an experience. There's a reason it's done so well.
At number 7 is Angry Birds,
which I was surprised at. I knew I was going to probably like a lot of it and think it was funny, but I didn't expect to laugh at it as much as I did. I thought it was a very good, clever way of adapting basically a simple, stupid game into a film, and it gave it a decent story, nice characters, and something that you could connect with.
Number 6 is You Went for the Nice Guys,
which I really, really loved. I wish it would have gone in higher. I get that it's struggling a bit for audience because it's first of all it's a 15, but second of all it's a very oddball kind of film that's out there. And there's people like yourself who I don't think you've seen this yet, have you?
Nope.
No, because you were put off by the trailer. But the trailer is, I think, very, very clever and witty, and that's what the whole film is. If you like anything of Shane Black's style and his humour, especially his humour in things like Iron Man 3, there's bits of humour in there that he is definitely his signature. Kind of like how, sort of you have something you watch it and you go, that's a Joss Whedon signature. He has great bits of just witty dialogue between people that he puts in. In particular, like the Iron Man 3, the sequence where there's the two guards guarding him and they're talking about, how do we get this shift? And that going on. That's pure Shane Black. And there's loads of things like that in this film, but action and comedy and laugh out loud things, and it's really brilliant.
And number 5 is X-Men Apocalypse,
which is a disappointment. It's not anywhere near as good as the last one, Days of Future Past, which was the same people basically put it all together, Bryan Singer. It's a film that is very, very slow, very plodding, and the main character of the villain is never really anything particularly more threatening than that I've seen sometimes a loaf of bread more threatening than this. It's just really a letdown because it just builds and builds and builds for most of it and then comes to nothing by the end.
Yeah, I can guarantee that a loaf of bread is more threatening, as considering I'm gluten intolerant, and so definitely it is for me. Number 4 is Alice Through the Looking Glass.
I haven't seen this.
I have. It's bad. It's not very good at all. The only shining light of the film is Sacha Baron Cohen, surprisingly. Mia Wasikowska, she's okay as Alice. She tries her hardest, but the script is so clunky, and the film itself is so wooden that both her and Sacha Baron Cohen cannot save it. There's somebody who I work with, he took his daughter to see it, and they loved it. I just questioned his taste, to be honest, and so I know it's understandable. It's what he thinks of the film, and my guess is it might be his daughter that loved it. But I just thought, compared to the first one's actually better.
I still haven't seen that, and I probably won't see it, to be honest, because I'm not that interested in it. I haven't seen number 3 either.
Which is And You Went Before Me Before You, which is a romantic drama. It's a very bog standard, straightforward romantic drama. It's got Sam Calvin in it, Claflin in it, who plays a guy who's involved in a car accident which makes him disabled. And you've also got Emilia Clarke, who's her from Game of Thrones. She plays somebody who's very upbeat. She's just decided to step away from her original job. Her relationship with her other half has gone south. She then becomes the nanny for Sam Claflin's character, and they establish a relationship there. It's just by the numbers kind of stuff. If you've seen any Nicholas Sparks kind of movies or those kind of films, then you can pretty much guess everything that goes on in this film. And number 2 is a new entry for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows,
which I thought was very much this kind of sequel by the numbers, loads of action, really cheesy dialogue, some big special effects budget sequences, and especially towards the end where it kind of just turns into almost Transformers in a way. It has a couple of moments that are okay, has a couple of sequences that are watchable, and it does make you laugh throughout it, but it's all, by the end of it you walk out and it's just really, it was just forgettable nonsense. The first one struggled but had some bright moments. This one just struggled and had a couple of laughs.
Yeah, and considering that it was from the guy who did Earth to Echo, it just annoys me because he actually did a pretty decent job with Earth to Echo. With this one, he was restrained by Michael B. And at number 1 is a new entry for Warcraft: The Beginning,
which I really enjoyed. I got into it so much because I do like the fantasy genre, and I think that's key to enjoying the film. You have to be interested in the fantasy genre. I've chatted with people since this came out now, who, some people have really liked it, some people have been in the middle, some people have hated it. Some people, the people that hated it, were bored because they didn't get into it, they didn't understand what was going on. And I think that's because they're just not ready for a fantasy movie, they're not into it. The fantasy movies are done in a certain way and told in a certain way, that they're not typical films like other genres, and that makes them a lot harder to make. And I think Duncan Jones had done a stellar job at doing this, fantastic job at doing it, because it has got a great story in there. It's subtle, it has character, and a character, sort of the character's interests are key to all parties in the film, and that's the thing that maybe stands out for me more than it does to other people. But I thought it gave the genre, and it gave just a good storytelling a fair go.
Yeah, it could have been a movie that could have ended off being like a Dungeons and Dragons, when in fact it's got more in common with things like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's closer to that.
Dragons. It's got a feel of that. It's just a shame that the Hobbit trilogy never turned out to be like Lord of the Rings, whereas Duncan Jones says he wanted Warcraft to feel like Lord of the Rings, and this feels like a replacement for that kind of stuff as well. Just hope that he gets a chance to make a sequel, and it hasn't done very well in the US, but it has done really well across the globe. And look what's happened with Pacific Rim. That's got a sequel. John Boyega's been announced to be in the film as well, thanks to its takings across the globe. And so now the way studios should be looking at films is how a movie does across the globe, not just in America, because there are more territories than just America, more important territories than just America, and especially the way the Chinese are actually coming into the movie industry. They're looking to actually put even more money in more studios as well.
They've started doing it, yeah.
It's actually an important thing for the movie industry, and what China is doing is actually injecting some life back into the movie industry as well. So well done for them to do that, and it's actually paying off.
Yeah, I mean,
even though when you hear that movies are doing so bad in America, you can pretty much ignore that for now to see how well it's doing worldwide. And I think it would have been nicer if that happened back in the days of like Dredd. I know that was only a few years ago, but you can just imagine if Dredd was sort of like pushed as well as as Warcraft has been done in China, that a sequel would have been probably out this year.
Yeah, but Dredd was basically an issue of releasing and the format and stuff and advertising, which there was very little of.
Still though, I think it could have been better in the hands if it was released now, and we would have gotten a sequel in like 2018 instead of them trying to fumble around to try and get some kind of sequel or even Netflix TV series. Right, on to the new releases of the week. I get the short straw when it comes to the first film.
Excuse me? Who's reviewing the Melissa McCarthy film?
Yeah, but I've got an even worse film than that. Trust me, I have got an even worse film than that. You should know anyway, considering that you did New Year's Day.
Yeah.
So you reviewed New Year's Day.
But that did have my nemesis in it. That did have Katherine Heigl in it.
Still though, you did New Year's Day, so you can just imagine what Mother's Day is like then, considering it's from the same director, and he has done Valentine's Day in the past. So you can just imagine what it is actually like. And so yeah, this is another one of those movies where it has multiple different story strands interleaving into one to have some kind of coherent narrative to bring them all together. So the stories revolve around, I'll leave Jennifer Aniston's story until last because hers is the clip that we're playing, but you've also got a story which involves Kate Hudson's character, who is in a relationship with somebody. She turns out to be gay, and her sister is married to somebody who's who's black. Her mother, though, is sort of like a really nasty person. She doesn't like that kind of thing, and so you can just imagine the hijinks that happens there. You've also got Jason Sudeikis' character, who is trying to bring up his daughters on his own after losing his mother, and showing what it's actually like to bring up children on your own through Mother's Day. You've also got a story that revolves around Jack Whitehall's character, who's going out with an American girl, and he's trying to actually build up his stand-up career in America. And then you've got the story which revolves around Jennifer Aniston's character, who was divorced from Timothy Olyphant's one, and she is trying to show her kids what it's like to be a single parent. She takes them to her father's one day when she discovers that their father has got a new floozy. Here's a clip.
This is so exciting, you guys! Your first sleepover with Dad and his new, person.
What do you want us to call her? Do you want us to call her Mom, too?
No, absolutely not. You just call her what comes naturally. But I would say ma'am is good.
Hey! What's up, boys?
Hey, Henry.
Yeah?
Hi, Sandy. Hi, Tina.
Hi, Tina. Hi, boys. I thought you'd moved back to L.A.
Yeah, just for a minute. And people said I should model.
Yeah.
But, boys, I made cookies for Peter, guitars, and for Mikey, baseballs.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Tina. These are great.
Yeah, come on inside. Okay.
Okay, bye, guys. Have fun. See you tomorrow.
Bye, Sandy. Oh,
Bye, Mom.
tweet at me if you want to check in or anything. Or check my Instagram. I'll post some photos when I get some cute ones.
Yeah. That's exciting. Tweet at me.
You just heard in that clip how awkward the film is, and that sums up of what the movie is like. It's an absolute car crash of a mess, because I don't know what Gary Marshall thinks by having stories that centres around one thematic subject, in this case Mother's Day, and try to interleave them together with a single string narrative that supposedly flows throughout of them all, and lo and behold they'll stitch together at the end and make something beautiful, when in fact it looks like your pet has got hold of it and ripped it apart. It's when you've made like a nice patchwork quilt, you go away for the day and then you come back and you see the pieces all over the place. That's exactly what this film is like. It's awkward to watch because nothing about the film is funny at all, especially when you've got somebody like Jack Whitehall, who is a stand-up comedian, and he looks so uncomfortable on the stage when he's telling these very basic, boring British jokes, very stereotypical British jokes, and the audience are laughing, and they're the only people who's laughing for the entirety of the film. Everybody else is just looking on going, what the heck am I watching? You're watching a guy who supposedly made a brilliant start with his career by directing Pretty Woman, and then has decided to do a trilogy, and I don't know how far he's going to take it, if he's going to do a Father's Day movie, if he's going to do another Day movie anyway. He's just gone and destroyed his career. And also releasing Mother's Day the day before, a couple of days before Father's Day in the UK. That's like releasing a Christmas movie like they did with Krampus on DVD about a month ago. What is the point in doing that? So, as you can probably guess, Mother's Day is an awful, awful mess of a film which should easily be avoided.
Okay, the cinema release I'm doing this week is The Boss, which is directed by Ben Falcone. It's written by and stars Melissa McCarthy, and is a kind of typical Melissa McCarthy role with a character who she plays Michelle Darnell, who at the beginning of the film is a woman who everything's going really well for her. She's one of these kind of like a help guru thing that goes out on stage and does these big shows and talks to everyone and how to be successful and everything like that. She's then arrested by the government for some kind of like tax fraud, invasion sort of investment thing. Ends up in a prison and having all of the money and everything taken off of her. Is released 6 months later and then basically finding herself destitute, nowhere to live or anything like that, ends up being taken in by her former employee, who is played by Kristen Bell, who basically let her walk all over her before, and instead now takes pity on her, takes her in, lets her live with her and her daughter till she can get herself on her feet. The things going on is that then she starts to realise, well, I need to find a job or something, and starts to then realise that she can get back into sort of making money and successful and everything the way she was before, by helping to help Kristen Bell's character to be a bit more successful herself, while also helping her daughter go through this basically like a Girl Scout cookies thing that she's trying to do, and start up a successful new business of like a Girl Scout cookies thing. So here's a clip.
If your breasts could speak right now, I think they'd be saying, Claire, please don't zip me up in your jeans. You're gonna zip a nipple.
That's not what they'd say.
May I adjust your strap? Because I'm trying to help you, Claire. You say be more helpful, and I'm trying to be helpful.
Tighten the strap.
Okay. Just a little.
Because I want.
What is that toggle?
Oh, it's a nursing bra.
Oh my God. Are you still nursing Rachel?
No, it's from when she was a baby, but it's very comfortable.
It's not comfortable to see. Now, let me see this. It's very often a fit issue. Why do these have so much
All right, well,
Claire, it's like Geppetto.
So, this is, as I said earlier, the typical kind of Melissa McCarthy thing. Kind of in the way you have a lot of films now for Adam Sandler, are the typical Adam Sandler film, where you just have a character who's doing stupid things and has it's just a story around her to do stupid character, being comedy at the lowest common denominator in places, but never kind of really gross out. But there's a part when she's with all these girls, and there's the whole kind of like these two Girl Scout troops that are going around selling cookies door to door, and they're against each other. So of course it turns into a fight, and mayhem ensues. If you've seen the trailer, you'll have seen clips of it, of it's like war on the streets between Girl Scouts and all that sort of thing going on. The whole thing as well with Kristen Bell's character is that it's really just pushed as far as it can go, and then goes further and further and further for the remaining hour and a half of the film, because it's a film that's just, honestly, there's not even enough material here for it to be a good film. It's just, and I'm anyone to admit, fair enough, Melissa McCarthy is good if she's given good material, and it's the thing that she's involved in writing this one. But I mean, things like Spy, I thought was a really good film with Melissa McCarthy when it was with Paul Feig, who is often a collaborator with her. Ben Falcone, who directed this film, is actually her husband. So they're sort of the two big collaborators with her, and Paul Feig is better with her. I don't know what Ghostbusters are going to be like, because he's directing that with her, but with Ben Falcone, who she did Tammy with as well, which Tammy was a film which similar kind of thing. Tammy had potential because it actually did set up sort of a good thing, and then it threw it away.
It was more of a drama for her.
It was, and it started off like that, then it descended into the typical Melissa McCarthy lowest common denominator humour, and it lost me. It really did. There was a point in Tammy where we'll say, because it's been a while now. There's a point in Tammy where somebody appears to die, and you think, this is actually good. It's serious, and then it turns out the person isn't dead. They're just sleeping, and it becomes a comedy thing, a gag thing, and you're just like, no, okay, typical McCarthy thing, and it just completely ruins it. If it had been drama like that, it would have been great. And there's not even that here, though. It doesn't have a good setup. It's literally just, it starts off, the character is instantly annoying, gets more annoying, and then as they start to, it has this typical thing of, by the end of the film, do you think they're going to have a change of heart? Do you think they're going to become a good person? Do you think this is going to happen? And it's literally in the first 5 minutes you can go, this, that'll happen. That's the next 90 minutes mapped out. That's the end of the film.
Put a nice little bow on it, and file it under the...
It has as well. I mean, you get in the two people that pop up in the film. One of them a lot more than the other. Peter Dinklage appears in cameo roles, sort of here bits in there, who is like a former lover of Melissa McCarthy's character and is still obsessed with her, but is a rival, and is just crazy, and is like doing the same kind of thing he did in Pixels, that kind of really bad cheesy role. And Kathy Bates turns up at one point as like a former advisor of hers, and it's like literally Kathy Bates turns up and you go, what? Huh? What? And it honestly sat there and I was like, what? I just honestly eyes bouncing around in my head going, just stop it now.
Yeah, we'll stop it now actually. We'll move on to the final film that we're looking at. You might actually want to block your ears if I was you, because it might, considering that it is the final Studio Ghibli film.
If there were some way for you to signal me, I would actually put my headphones down, walk away, and then just wait for it.
Yeah, come on, they're not that bad Ghibli films.
But, I don't mind them. No, I have nothing against Studio Ghibli films. I just don't love them as much as you do.
Yeah, this has come from a person who's never actually reviewed a Ghibli film on the show. You've never reviewed one on the show.
Have I not? I do like them. I mean, I love things like things like Laputa, Castle in the Sky, and Spirited Away. I have them in my collection. I'm trying to think of other ones now. Just off my from
5
memory.
years we've been doing the show. This August, and you've not reviewed one.
But how many have been released? I know that there's been Arrietty.
Yeah, there's been Arrietty. There's been The Wind Rises.
Yeah.
There's been.
They're not that often released.
From Up on Poppy Hill.
Okay, I haven't seen that one.
There's this one, When Marnie Was There.
Yeah.
So When Marnie Was There, Omodi no Mani, as the Japanese title is. This was actually released in 2014 in Japan, so it's taken a while to get released over here. It's the final film directed by Hiromasa Yonebayashi, who did Arrietty as well, and it's based on a novel by Joan G. Robinson. Very much like what the last few Ghibli films have been, all the way down to Tales from Earthsea, which was the Goro Miyazaki movie. Very, very simple story. It centers around the character of Marnie, who's you'll hear in the clip, which we'll play in a minute, and also about a little girl who's she's pretty much a recluse from everybody else. At the start of the film, you see all the kids playing around in the yard, and she just wants to sit there and draw. And so her parents think that the best thing for her is to take some time away from the bustling city where she's actually living with them, and move to the country with her aunt and her uncle, where it's a bit more relaxed, a bit more laid back, so she can start bring herself out of her shell. And so it's just a normal reclusive kind of life. She still just wants to be there and draw, when all of a sudden out in the distance she sees a light come on in a supposedly abandoned house, and she decides to investigate. Here's a clip.
Road stuck. Throw me the rope! Hurry! Rope? Quickly! Are you okay? Yeah. Good. Are you... you real? Wait. Shh. Let's not have anyone hear us. In my dreams, I saw a girl just like you. Dreams? Thank you. It's not a dream.
And so, I gotta say that I actually really, really love the sound of that music there.
Takatsugu Muramatsu, he's the one who's done the soundtrack to this. He's done the soundtrack to a few Ghibli films.
Yeah, sounds like it sounds similar to him, but it sounds really, really nice.
Yeah, it's just sumptuous, the soundtrack of it. The rest of the film is just centres around the character of Anna and Marnie there. Brilliantly voiced in both English and Japanese. In English, you've got Haley Steinfeld, who plays Anna, and Kernan Shipka, who does Marnie. And the Japanese one, you've got Sarah Takutsuki and Kazumi Aramura, who does the voices of both Anna and Marnie. Now, I've seen this in Japanese with English subtitles, but from what I can gather there, it's still... The dubs for Ghibli films are always top notch. That's the reason why they take their time, because they make sure they get them spot on. Now, you can probably guess where I'm going here, so it'll come as no shock to anybody to realise that I absolutely adored this movie. Now, the thing with Ghibli films is they're sort of like, they're the kind of films that get me in my comfort zone. They're the kind of films that I know that if you've had a horrible week, if you've gotten some really bad news, if something has brought you down, for me anyway, they're the kind of films that pushes me out of that. When I'm remembering bad things that's happened, or something like happens that brings those kind of memories out of me, I watch a Ghibli film, because they always put me in the happy place, as it's known as. And the thing with When Marnie Was There is, with it being the last film from Studio Ghibli, it stirred up a whole host of emotions, because I've been following Ghibli since 1984 when they released Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and I've been following them since then, and I've been following them with my mother, and she became a huge fan of Ghibli films. She was late to the punch with them, with Spirited Away, but then she watched the back catalogue of the films and fell in love with things like My Neighbor Totoro and The Cat Returns, and movies like that. And when she passed away, that was sort of like a bit that left me. And they still released Studio Ghibli films, and though every single film that I watched, that I always thought that this is kind of the film that it would make my mum smile, and it always make me smile. So when I watched When Marnie Was There, that's exactly what it did. It brought out those emotions in me, and obviously I cried a couple of times, especially the way the film wraps up. It has that brilliant way of a Ghibli film being able to wrap up a story just perfectly, where you can't watch it and go, you know what, a sequel would be brilliant for this. They've never done a sequel to any of their movies, and you can tell why, because of the way they...
Is there not something where one of them is connected to another one, like in the same universe, but never a direct sequel?
There is. There's the cat from The Cat Returns, Baron von Gickington. He appears in another one of the Ghibli films, but he only appears in a Ghibli film. And that's it. There is no direct sequel to any of the Studio Ghibli films. And When Marnie Was There is a fitting end to one of the best, if not the best, animated studios in the world. The animation is spot on. They're stuck with their guns throughout the studio's career by doing hand-drawn animation with painted backgrounds. They've stuck with that, and that's how it ends off with When Marnie Was There. And as you heard also, the soundtrack is just so gorgeous, so sumptuous. They know how to actually put music with scenes that are happening in the film. Overall, it's my movie of the year. It's better than Room for me. Room, I never thought that I would have actually watched a film that's better than Room so far. And surprise, surprise, it's a Ghibli film, which in my eyes is the best film of this year. And it's going to take something unbelievably special to beat When Marnie Was There. So it'll be a fitting end for when we do our top 10 films of the year, for me to have a Studio Ghibli film to be the last film, to be my number one movie of the year from them. And it's just absolutely superb.
Hopefully you were going to have it be your movie of the week, but
it's my movie of the year,
yeah,
so obviously
yeah.
It's easily going to be my movie of the week, considering the films that I've had to watch this week, apart from one. It was guaranteed to be movie of the week. I even said that last week, sure, that I was going to be my movie of the week this week. But yeah, it is just absolutely superb. And on that note, we'll take a break and we'll have the Blu-ray and DVD section of the show.
There wasn't a real sense of you were doing something wrong, but that did give it that feeling of excitement.
When the reveal of the film happens, that's when it just becomes absurd.
And the atmosphere and just the sense you get whenever you go into it is undeniable.
It did absolutely zero for me, which could be for the hype.
What we've just discussed there is just scratching the surface on it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted, and you're listening to From Page to Screen, the horror show.
And we're back with the home releases section, which will go through the DVD and Blu-ray top 10, and then on to these plethora of pretty big movies this week.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds plays the foul-mouthed anti-hero / hero in probably Marvel's most foul-mouthed and bloodiest film they've created for the last good while, in Deadpool. And then we have classic 60s British comedy getting the big screen treatment, get my tongue in place, with Dad's Army.
Get your tongue in place.
Yeah, lovely. Michael Bay directs action thriller with 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. We'll have remake with Point Break. We have disaster film of sorts with The Finest Hour.
Disaster film with Point Break.
And then we have western with a sort of hint of horror in Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah. But as I said before that, we'll get straight on to the DVD and Blu-ray top 10. We're going to be probably going through this quite quick because a lot of this hasn't changed much. Starting at number 10 with Spotlight.
It's a shame that it's actually snowballed out of the charts as quickly as it had, because I would have preferred this to be in the chart more so than a lot more of the other films in the top 10, because it is such an interesting film, especially considering what's been going on at the moment as well. It resonates a tiny little bit with things that's been happening in the news as of late, and it is a really interesting, really well acted, very well directed film.
Daddy's Home is still hanging around at number 9.
Yeah, out of all of the rest of the comedies in this top 10, this is the funniest. And that probably says a lot coming from my mouth, considering I didn't laugh once in this film.
Number 8, dropping down quite a bit, is Snoopy and Charlie Brown, the Peanuts movie.
Very average film. Considering that it should have been much better than what it was. It tells exactly the same kind of stories that we've seen in the Snoopy movies. The best thing about it is Snoopy himself and the Red Baron. His little sections are actually it could have just been the whole film. They could have just made a film based on the Red Baron character and it would have been interesting, rather than seeing Charlie Brown fall in love with the girl again. So it pretty much like the Spider-Man origin story and telling Batman's origin story. We've seen it like 8-9 times. We've seen Charlie Brown fall in love with the new girl that comes to town 8-9 times, so just stop it.
Ride Along 2 is at number 7.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not as like rant-worthy kind of film, because it's not as horrible as you might think, but it's still just not funny at all.
No, because the film deserving of those would be the one at number 6, which is Dirty Grandpa,
which is an atrocious film. Which out of the comedies in the top 10, this is by far the worst comedy, easily by far the worst comedy, and probably going to make our bottom 10 list of the year, so the worst films of the year list, because it's just really horrible.
Creed moving up the list at number 5.
Good to see Creed rising up the list.
Yep.
No.
That's it. No.
Rising up.
Rising.
Back on the street. Took my time. No, forget it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
I thought they would have gotten that there, but yeah, Creed is a really good film.
You should have done it. You didn't even do the tempo of the.
Yeah, I know.
Good to see Creed rising up. Yeah. Okay. And number 4, also moving up, is The Hateful Eight.
Can't make that same kind of joke with The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight is 2/3 of a really good film, 1/3 of a very long film. Because it's 45 minutes just too long.
Okay. And number 3, also moving up, is Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
I wonder how many people actually don't own a copy of Star Wars: The Force Awakens outside of me. You don't?
Yeah, not yet. I'm waiting for I'm waiting for the 3D one. Honestly, I didn't want to buy it, and I'm honestly tired of the whole double dipping thing and buying it and then having to buy it again later. So I'm just gonna wait.
Like that with 4K in a way. I'm contemplating whether to wait for the new PlayStation 4 that's going to be out at the end of the year just to buy 4K movies. And I'm looking at it going, I can't be bothered to go from DVD to Blu-ray to buy my films in 4K.
No, you get these ones now that it's like a 4K and Blu-ray, isn't it? Similar kind of thing like that. So you could everything you're getting now, just buy that, and then you'll have a whole handful of them to watch in 4K when that happens.
I still have to buy like a £350 player to play them on, and I don't have that kind of money.
Well, maybe you'll win the lottery or something.
Than buying technology, so I think I need to actually concentrate on that first.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, or I'll be sleeping on the floor.
Yeah. So we're not saying anything more about Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
No,
No.
we've said everything.
Last week's number 1, dropping down to 2, Goosebumps.
Yeah, Jack Black plays R.L. Stein really well, brings a whole host of characters from lots of Goosebumps stories from the sort of like late 80s into the 90s onto the screen as well, and did a pretty good job of it. It feels like an old-fashioned kids' adventure film, and it works.
Which means that the number 1 movie, big surprise, is The Revenant.
Yeah, no surprise there. Alejandro González Iñárritu's directed film. It's good. It is a good film. It's brutal to watch, but you can pick away the plot holes, and you can pick away the film itself, because if you take away sort of like the bear attack on Leonardo DiCaprio's character and the rivalry between Tom Hardy's and his character there, if you start peeling that away, it just becomes a bit of a flat kind of film on that instance. But it's still, watch it once and you'll feel the visceral nature of it. Watch it again and you'll start to actually pick the film apart.
Yeah, and when you watch it the first time, watch it on as big a screen and with as great a sound as you can, because it has got that atmospheric feeling to it. The only thing I would say is watch the continuity, especially if you see it the second time. The continuity really does stand out.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for people to do that unless you've got like a projector to be able to do that.
The number of people now have got that or big screen TV.
Yeah, well, I've got a 49-inch TV in my
exactly.
in my sitting room, but
Yeah.
I've actually got a tablet that's got a projector built into it, so I could just use that.
Okay, let's move on to this week's releases, because we've got to get through these 6 films, and I think we're going to be a little while on each one.
No, we're not, because I need to be gone in about 25 minutes, so we need to actually steamroll through them a bit.
Well, hurry up then, because you're up first.
Yeah, shut up. Deadpool, directed by Tim Miller. Ryan Reynolds wanted to bring the true vision of what Deadpool is to the big screen for a while now. Instead, he was actually thrown into the Wolverine movie and made a mute, and made a really bad character. Then he was given the chance to be in the kind of film that he needs to be in, and so obviously, as you can tell with Deadpool, the film itself, it's an origin story of sorts. It opens up with a violent tete-a-tete, and then Deadpool does turn around and say, let's rewind things back and tell you how I became what I'm at. And so you've discovered the story of Wade Wilson, how the fact that he is a gun for hire in a way, and so you hire him to actually take out a bad guy, the sarcastic person that he is. He falls for this stripper at a bar, they establish a relationship, and then he ends up getting some really bad news. He then gets accosted by this guy saying, we can really help you by sort of like subjecting you to lots of torture, but injecting you with this kind of serum which will give you mutant powers. That is the case. He becomes pretty much unstoppable and becomes Deadpool after a big massive explosion. And Deadpool's whole thing is that he wants to actually stop the guy who did this to him. He wants to try and find a cure. Here's a clip.
You're gonna do a superhero landing. Wait for it. Woo! Superhero landing.
Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Totally impractical. They all do it. You're a lovely lady, but I'm saving myself for Francis. That's why I brought him.
I prefer not to hit a woman, so please play.
I mean, that's why I brought her? Oh no, finish your tweet. That's fine. Just give us a second. There you go, hashtag it. Go get her, Tiger.
Oh, I so pity the dude who pressures her into prom sex.
Do you think she was tweeting the girl from Mother's Day?
Oh God, no. Just saying, yeah, please don't be in this movie or anything like that. She was just considering the character there, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, which by the way is a brilliant name for a character.
Even addressed by Deadpool in the film in words that we cannot say.
Yeah, and I wrote probably one of the cleanest jokes that he does say it down, because when I went to see this in the cinema, I did laugh. I laughed more than quite a few comedies that I've seen over the last few years, because it is really funny, and that's down to the way Ryan Reynolds plays Deadpool. He's such a sarcastic character, and you needed an actor who's able to pull that kind of thing off. And there's only a couple of actors who can do that, and he is definitely top of the list. But one of the and this is like very close to the edge of the kind of thing we can see it. One of the sarcastic comments he says is, "Have you ever heard David Beckham speak? He sounds like he's mouth sexed a can of helium." When I was watching this again today, and when I heard that line, I was just in absolute hysterics because I must have missed that line when I went to see it at the cinema.
You probably missed the next line after it, which actually makes a reference to Ryan Reynolds. He actually makes a reference to himself in the film.
It's a film that breaks the fourth wall multiple times, but breaks the fourth wall, and he also makes a joke of that as well, is by turning around and saying it's like some kind of 16th wall or 16 walls, and so it's a film that knows exactly what it is. It never tries to go away from that at all, and it has a lot of fun with what it's doing. Its only problematic thing is the last 20 minutes where it does the very stereotypical comic book stuff. But you can sort of forgive it because the ride for the previous 70, 80 minutes is such a fun, entertaining one that any misgivings, you just go, you know what, I don't care. Because I enjoyed what I've watched. I enjoyed the over-the-top violence. I enjoyed the sarcastic quips, the really sort of like cheesy in a weird dialogue, but the way he actually says it, he's just, you could get him to read out the phone book and sort of like give him a few nasty quips in the phone book as well, and you'll be able to brilliantly do it. And so overall, the film itself is just enjoyable, really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's a film that it's brilliant because of the fact that it does poke fun at not only its other films but also itself. You have this whole thing of the character being entirely self-referential, talking, like you're saying, fourth wall breaking directly to the camera and the audience, making gags about that, making gags about things that the other characters say and do, and just the violence at times is almost humorous too in some cases. And it's not only the dialogue as well. There are some great physical gags in it and some physical humour in it, which is surprising. It's a film that has also this weird thing of like there's a gag from the opening credits, which is poking fun at itself and other films and the genre of comic book films, that just is something like you've never seen before in a film. And if you're not laughing in the first 30 seconds, put it off, because it's not right. You're not in the right mood. You need to, it's a film that if you're not in the right mood for it, you probably go, oh, this is terrible. You think, oh, I want it to be a superhero film, and it's like it's not a superhero film typical of the superhero genre, that kind of thing. It is one that's literally poking fun in other films and trying to poke you in the eye at the same time as well, with just humour and slapstick and laughs abound.
Giving you a wedgie, teabagging you, do anything that's really going to be there.
Which it does more than once in the film as well.
Giving you also the nicest reach around possible.
Oh, you had to go there, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. Dad's Army, which is a completely different can of worms. It's directed by Oliver Parker. It is based on the 60s series? 70s series?
60s, yeah.
Yeah. And the whole thing of the at-home sort of reserves guard of the home guard, that when during World War II all of the young able-bodied men of course were sent out to war, so the home guard was sort of everyone else who wasn't able to go out because of injury or because of age, that were then put into a sort of a kind of like a neighbourhood watch version of the army, and because of this a lot of them were obviously aged or infirm in some ways, not able to actually be out in combat, but it was kind of like a be ready for last ditch effort to defend the country in the effect that German soldiers or anything did get here and start to attack and invade. You have leading the troop is Captain Mannering, played by Toby Jones, who is sort of leading this ragtag sort of group of misfits. They're all sort of, half of them kind of a bunch of sort of nitwits, half of them are just there because of the fact that they don't have anything much else to do, but it's all them sort of getting on, while there's also sort of a thing going on with a female journalist who's turned up, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, going around and asking questions and sort of looking into things and trying to get all their attention. So of course her feminine wiles having a little bit of a distraction with them. Here's a clip.
Very good, men. Breaking up the outline. You're not taking this seriously, are you, Walker?
How'd you know it was me?
No, thank you, Pike. Put some thought into this, Jones.
Thank you, Captain. Mrs. Fox lent it me from last year's production of Robin Hood. I'm a tiny bit of Sherwood Forest.
Godfrey? Look like you're on a cruise to the South Seas.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. It's very kind of you. I got the idea from a picture I saw last week south of the Pago Pago. I thought it looked rather open air.
Take it off.
Captain, might I be excused, please?
Certainly not. Now listen, men. Sergeant Wilson's mission is to reach our flag undetected. So, we'll all need to keep our eyes peeled at all times.
Listen! Something's coming!
If I know Wilson, he'll have charmed his way into a lift. Conceal yourselves, men!
So, the problem is kind of evident in that clip with the film. The problem is that the film does have some jokes, does set them up, does take its time doing that, and it has also this story going on as well in the background. But it's just very, very light on the jokes and very, very simple. It doesn't really have any kind of big payoffs. You keep watching it thinking this is happening, this happening, little jokes, little gags here and there, and you think it's building up to something. You know, you have something in a lot of films you get like this where something happens in the background or something's going on and it all pays off with a big laugh at one point later on, and it's nicely done and set up, and there's the patience there for it. And it doesn't have that. It's lacking that. It's very much lacking that payoff, in that it's got nothing wrong. And the thing is, I'm not a fan of the series, so I don't really know the series. I knew it, I was aware of it when I was younger, but I never watched it, never got into it. But it's got that feel to it of what I remember the feel of the original. But it honestly just feels like it's missing something. Like it hasn't got the spark that was probably there. It does feel like a pastiche, and I just wish there was more to it and more humour, and it's just lacking.
The way the film actually plays out is very similar to the characters themselves. The characters are very sort of like older generation. Apart from one or two of them, they are at least 45, 50 plus, and that's exactly what it feels. The film itself feels very laborious, very like the way they kind of operate. It just doesn't seem to have any kind of punch down. When it does try to do that with the last 15-20 minutes of the film, it just doesn't seem like it fits. It's trying to be like an action film then, when it just doesn't fit the film at all. So it doesn't have a clue what it wants to be.
Yeah, it's a shame, because there was such a good as again, it's such a good setup. It just doesn't go anywhere and doesn't pay off by the end of the film.
It proves you that these kind of TV programs should just be left where they are. They should be just left as TV programs.
I'm all for this. This could have actually been really good. It just needed more. They should have put more into the film, more into either making it serious or having a lot more humour, because it kind of straddles the fence between the two and can't decide.
13 Hours the Secret Soldiers of Benghazi then. This never straddles the fence into humour and into action, because obviously it's directed by Michael Bay. Now it's him who's he's tried to do this in the past, where he's taken supposedly a serious story and then making a film out of it. And so in this case, it's set in 2012. It's the 11th anniversary of 9/11. And it centres around soldiers in Libya, specifically in Benghazi. It's sort of like these group of private military contractors. We're going to hear a clip in a moment giving you a feel of what the film is actually like. But it's just centres around these people there who sort of like trying to keep the rest of the Americans who are there safe. They're there to protect them while they're doing their work to try and prove that Libya isn't the violent country that it is. Unfortunately, though, it turns out that they are indeed the violent country, because there are multiple set pieces in the film which centers around them getting bombarded, whether it be the protection of J. Christopher Stevens, who's the US ambassador for Libya there. He's out for a visit to try and see what's going on when the compound where he's staying at is attacked. And then you've also got the main crux of the attack, which is sort of like the 13 hours, which is pretty much the last hour of the film, onto a huge massive compound which involves a lot of Libyan forces, soldiers bombarding them with tanks and mortars and guns and things like that. Here's a clip giving you sort of like, it's near to the start of the film, so with a lot of tension, giving you a feel of how the movie sort of plays out.
No, this isn't good. Look at these guys.
Here we go.
Welcome to Benghazi.
Salam. Libyan visa. Official. Libyan government. Fimni? Fimni? Pull over for inspection.
No.
Pull over for inspection.
Sorry, sir, I can't do that. Look up. Go ahead, look up. You see the drone? No? That's all right, because the drone sees you. Sees your face.
We know who you are.
Anything happens to us, your home, your family, gone. Give the order, let us go. How willing are you to die for your country? I'm ready to go right here, right now.
Now, the thing with 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, it's such an important time that the film is set in. It's such an important event of what the film centres around. And what Michael Beer has gone and done is he's gone and taken all of that really important things and just slapped a Michael Beer action sticker over the top of it. He's sort of like forgotten pretty much the crux of what it is there, and then just made a pretty much meat-headed Marine-esque kind of film with some big massive explosive set pieces in there instead of trying to make it real. Because the characters themselves, they have no character to them. They have no depth to them. When he tries to give them depth, it's such a it's very much like tracing paper just being put over the top of normal paper. That's all it feels like. It feels like a very thin veil over the top of it to try and give them some character, when in fact it never imbues them with any character whatsoever. And then he chops and changes between the big action set pieces that he's noted for, giving them lots of explosions and fire and bullets flying all over the place and death, and then just does nothing interesting with them at all. You feel nothing for the characters when you should do. You feel just nothing for the film itself. It's never thrilling, so you're never sitting on the edge of your seat. You're never imbued in the action when you should actually be there. You should feel like you're one of these contractors. You should feel like you're involved with what's going on, when you just never feel like that at all. The way the camera flows, Michael Beer has this just knack of being able to shoot something really well, and I think that's what Beer does very well, as a matter of fact. If you look at all of these films that he's done, even if you hate them, you can see the way he actually positions cameras, and he does get some really good shots from them. So I have to give him a pat on the back for doing that. He's a good director when it comes to shooting films. He's not a good director when it comes to directing films, directing actors, directing scenes. And even though I know you were hoping that I would like the film itself, I didn't despise it like I have with Beer films in the past, compared to things like the last Transformers films or Pain and Gain or things like that. I think it's definitely a cut above that stuff there. It still just pains me to watch these kind of films where it should have a lot of character to them, and there is just nothing there.
I understand where you're coming from, and I definitely say it's definitely a cut above the rest of his films since probably The Rock. But what I would say is that I disagree. I think there is quite a lot of character there, because it is a film that's based on the book about the events, which is, the book is from the view of the three of the these contractors that were there, and the whole thing is told from their perspective, and that's what the film focuses on. It doesn't focus on everything else that's going on, because it's about their experience, about what happened from their view. And I mean, the three of them were also there as they were technical advisors on the film as well. So it's all sort of done, and it is done from their situation. You have moments where you have them in the fight, and then you have moments where in between the fight there's a rooftop moment where you have two of them talking about sitting on the roof and talking about the whole fact of now the adrenaline is sort of gone. one of them starts to think about his family that he hasn't thought about the whole time, and they're talking about their sons and their kids and things, and the future and stuff, and there's things like that in there. It's just, it doesn't beat you over the head with it like other films have. And I'm gonna go out on there on a limb, because it is, Michael Bay wants it to be Black Hawk Down. It's not Black Hawk Down, but it's kind of looking at it from a perspective of films. I view it kind of being like, if Black Hawk Down had been done by Tony Scott instead of Ridley Scott, it would have been like this. So I mean, Michael Bay is not Ridley Scott. He's not that level of director. But he's a competent action director, and he's added in more characters, I feel, than you would have got with Tony Scott doing it, if Tony Scott had done this kind of film. And the thing I think is impressive is the fact that it does manage to bring through, to me at least I thought it was, and to a friend that I saw it with at the cinema that came out and thought it was really good, and my wife has actually seen it now as well, and she came away at the end of it finding it actually to be quite sort of a little bit powerful and sad, that she was almost sort of moved to tears a bit at one point. So I don't think it's as bad as yourself, and I've read and seen reviews that were absolutely terrible to the film, really sort of gutted it, and it didn't deserve that. It definitely doesn't deserve that. I think you'd agree with me that it's not a bad film. It's just, it's in the company of other similar films, it may be a little bit light on some bits, but I think it's a very competent, a very solid film for what it is.
Considering the story that should have been told, considering how he actually told that story as well, he told it with such a light touch to it that he didn't give any kind of impact with the film at all. When things happened to the soldiers, I just didn't feel for them. The prime example, the perfect example is you get, and this is not giving anything away because it's the stereotypical thing that you normally see in these kind of films. When a soldier breaks down, it just felt like it was forced from the actor who was breaking down as the soldier, rather than after everything that's gone on, you would get like a hell of a lot of emotions. It just felt like he was going, cry and stop. So no, I just didn't think that the film was up there.
I definitely think you're wrong on that, but we'll go on anyway.
No surprise.
Yeah. No surprise that you're wrong, or no surprise that I think you're wrong?
No surprise that you think I'm wrong.
Well, Point Break. I don't know if you saw this or not, because you were struggling to be able to say. Okay, right. Right, this is the remake, directed by Erickson Core. It is written by Kurt Wimmer. It is a film of the remake of the original film, which was directed by Catherine Bigelow and starred Keanu Reeves as Utah. Here you have Luke Bracey playing the character of Utah. You have Edgar Ramirez playing the character of Bodhi, who was played in the original film by Patrick Swayze. The film does set up with a similar kind of story setup of, you have Utah is a guy who is a young FBI agent. He's kind of on his sort of first assignment. He looks into this thing that's going on at an office, where he sees this ongoing investigation into a group of robberies that are happening in sort of spectacular fashion, with things like a group that drives through a diamond processing plant, which is in a big tower, and then they do this on bikes, and then they go out the windows on the bikes and use parachutes to get away. He starts looking into things and seeing that there is a connection between them that no one else sees, because in his past he was a extreme sports athlete, and he's doing all this kind of thing because he sees this thing that's something called the Osaki 8, where you basically do these 8 trials and supposedly reach some sort of ascension at the end of it, and enlightenment by the end of the film. So he starts to look into things and basically goes off on the mission trying to find the people, and ultimately running into the character of Bodhi. Here's a clip.
What are you doing here, Utah?
What do you mean?
I remember you. Your reputation.
More balls than talent. Some said maybe that was why you were so good. Because you lacked fear. But what I saw on that wave yesterday, that was different. You lacked respect.
There was no connection. There was no beauty.
Maybe I'm chasing something, like you are.
What do you think I'm chasing?
You're chasing the 8.
It's a myth. But the real question is, what are you after?
As you heard there, the dialogue is pretty bad. The film's whole script is really pretty bad. It's really poor. There's really poor decisions. There's pigeonholing in some things that are from the original film, such as the character being unable to follow someone at one point and having the choice of shooting them or firing all their bullets off into the air, screaming "ah!" as mentioned in Hot Fuzz, and just because of the fact of that, it's we got to do that from the original and things, and it's really just a complete mess. It does try and do some things differently and change some things by introducing some other characters and twisting what happens with certain characters. But this is by the point that you're kind of sitting there going, hang on a minute, what, the Izaki 8 and all that kind of thing, and what, this kind of bull? It really just doesn't fly. Talking of flying, there is one sequence that is absolutely phenomenal, really brilliantly shot, of these wing gliding suit things that was all done for real, looks incredible. It's kind of like the whole thing with the second G.I. Joe film. This big action sequence that happens in the middle of the film is the spectacle of what's worth seeing if you have to absolutely see the film. The rest of the film, completely forgettable, complete waste of material. It's just an absolute mess. Delroy Lindo pops up at one point for not a cameo, but a wasted role. Ray Winston is completely and utterly in it just purely for the money, and you're sitting there going, yeah, okay, Ray, take the money, fine, do that, just get out of the film quick, because you're chewing the scenery so much that you're just slobbering everywhere, and it's just a horrible mess of a film. I love the original Point Break even. It did not need a remake. And the thing is, when I saw the trailer for this originally, I thought, okay, it might actually have something, because I thought they were going the whole thing of it looking about terrorists doing things, or doing it because of eco-terrorism, because that's kind of like a way to update it and do something different than just people going out robbing banks so they can live a high life in the summer. And it doesn't. It's just a complete and utter, it's mentally deficient is what it is.
It's awful. It is really. If I was bad-mouthing 13 Hours of Secret Soldiers of Benghazi for making their characters quite dumb, this is just in another league of its own. The dialogue is so really cheesy that even I was allergic to the whole entire film by the end of it. It's just atrocious. It's atrociously bad. The wingsuit stuff, you saw that in their Tomb Raider: The Cradle of Life. And so even though that was sort of like a big massive spectacle scene, it was done in Tomb Raider: The Cradle of Life. And
it's shot better here. It is shot a bit here, but it's a longer sequence.
Shot better because the gap is like 6, 7, 8 years, and so obviously you're going to perfect that kind of thing. But when you watch those extreme sport stuff, you think to yourself, the way the camera has actually flown along with it, it would have been much better if you just went to a proper extreme sports camera to shoot it all. It's just not very well shot at all. The whole film is just bad. I can understand why a lot of people badmouthed it, and it definitely deserves it. It's a movie that should never have been remade.
It's a complete travesty. Again, don't remake something that's good. Remake something that's terrible, because then you might actually be able to improve on it. You make something that's good and has got a cult following, you're never going to have a chance of even coming close to bettering it, or even getting as good a film.
Right on to The Finest Hour, directed by Craig Gillespie. It's a very Disney kind of film, because it is released by Disney itself. It's set in 1950 in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and it stars Chris Pine, who plays a sort of like a guy who is in a sort of like, you might as well say that the town where they live in is very much like a fishing village of sorts. They're on the edge of the coast, and they're involved with like the Coast Guard kind of stuff. So any ship that gets stranded out in the middle of the sea or anything like that, it's their duty to go out there and try to rescue them. So lo and behold, that's the case. It happens with a huge, massive tankard. It gets split in half, and the crew on top on this tankard are in trouble. And so it's up to Chris Pine, along with a few other characters played by Ben Foster as well, to try and go out there and rescue him. Obviously, their captain, Eric Bana, he doesn't want them to sort of like do this, but they decide to do that. And then it's up to Casey Affleck to try and persuade the men on the ship to not do what they're thinking by getting into the lifeboats and getting out of there. He wants them to try and run the ship to ground, and that's the only way they can survive. Here's a clip.
That boat is too small for these seas, and this ship will be sunk by nightfall. Every fella here wants to live. The only way that happens is if we run her aground. Now we're gonna set up a watch and look out for a shoal. I need 4 men working the pulleys on the emergency tiller. I need 4 men manning the pumps after steering, and the rest of you on a bucket line topside down below. Communicate with the engine room. And somebody keep blowing that whistle.
You heard him, boys!
Now, as you heard there, that's quite loud, that clip there. And the film itself, it fleeters between being very, very quiet and then all of a sudden really loudly. Because Chris Pine's character is very just stuck off kind of thing. The way he actually speaks his dialogue across just has no impact in it whatsoever, and it's indicative of what the film is like. It's very humdrum. It's the very kind of thing that your parents would have said, sit down and watch this on a Saturday afternoon. It's kind of stuff that would have been shown in sort of like a 2 o'clock time slot. And it's never offensive at all, but it just never does anything with what it's got. It never adds any kind of impact with the turmoil that this crew is going through to try and survive. Yet this other crew, this small little crew of 5 people, to try and go out there and do something brave by rescuing them as well. There's just no impetus there behind them. There is just no oomph there behind them at all. And the film itself just meanders along. And then when it gets to its last third, it just does the very stereotypical things of what we've seen before. Let's roll in emotion, let's do this, let's do that. And just, it feels very humdrum. It's one of those kind of movies that when you walk down the street and you just go, da 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 da. It's one of those kind of films. It's a da 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 kind of movie. I don't think you're going to find that kind of category in like a HMV or something like that, but it is very, they will never have a category that says very straight down the line kind of films, because who would want to buy one of those? But that's exactly what it is. It's a middle of the road movie which never ever goes onto the side of being really bad and offensive, but never goes onto the side of being something very impactful.
It's a very safe movie. It's
very stupidly safe.
Yeah, it's also very it's very long-winded in some of its scenes and some of its the length of some parts, and it's not as if there are parts which are building tension, and those parts are fine. There's other parts where it's not building tension, but they're long as if it's trying to build tension, and it's not. It shouldn't be. It should be stripping those back a bit and getting through those bits quickly so you can get back to the tension. And you want a quick respite of so the tension isn't building constantly, but you don't want to be coming off of the tension so that you start falling asleep before you go back on the tension again.
It never fleeters on the side of something like A Perfect Storm. It always just fleeters on the side of being really safe.
Okay, on to Bone Tomahawk, which is written and directed by S. Craig Zahler. It is a Western film, which is I don't think I actually said a point what date it is sort of set around.
Very late 1800s.
Yeah, something like that, but it doesn't actually say for sure. But it is a film that's set out in the Old West. You have a whole range of characters there, but started off with a couple of characters you're introduced to in full-on graphic style of these 2 men played by David Arquette and Sid Haig, who are David Arquette and Fred Melamed, who are killing a bunch of people and stealing their possessions when they hear something that sort of alerts them that people are coming. They run off trying to get away from being discovered and wander through what appears to be some kind of a sort of a laid out burial ground. You then have this sort of small town later on where David Arquette's character turns up. He is there and sort of ends up getting a little bit in trouble with the sheriff, played by Kurt Russell. One of his deputies, a very aging deputy played by Richard Jenkins, and then he's sort of arrested. But then later on that day you have the whole thing of that the town is sort of hit by something very mysterious. The man is kidnapped along with the female doctor that was there treating him, and so of course you have the group there sort of set up a small posse between them. You have a character played by Matthew Fox, who is kind of this very sort of smart and intelligent, very sort of successful kind of gunslinger character. And you have Patrick Wilson's character Arthur, who is the husband of the missing doctor, who is decided to come along despite the fact that he has what seems to be sort of almost a fractured or broken leg. So he's got this sort of situation of him being tied up with his leg as well. They all set out and start sort of making a journey to try and find out where these creatures are that have stolen them, and to rescue the wife and another deputy. Here's a clip.
Are any of you somnambulous?
That's private.
Me a sleepwalk.
Oh. No, I don't.
Me neither.
No.
Good. Sleep with your guns nearby, and you shoot anything that rings a bell.
Could be an innocent animal, somebody lost.
Our horses are hobbled. Any animal that comes at us is a predator. Any person that approaches a camp in the dark without identifying themselves is a criminal or a savage. You hear it jingle, point your gun and shoot. I'll probably beat you to the draw, but don't count on me to save you.
Let it go.
I can't. Hey. Hey! When you watch how you speak to the law. Sheriff especially. You aren't captain.
No. I'm the most intelligent man here, and I intend to keep us alive.
Oh, you're the most intelligent man here. Is that a fact?
It is. Sheriff Hunt has a wife. So does Mr. O'Dwyer. And you're a widower.
Yeah. What has that got to do with anything?
Smart men don't get married.
Well.
So, here's the thing with Bone Tomahawk. I saw it, and I have to admit I had some preconceptions because of things I'd heard about it, and people saying that it's similar, it crosses genres, and it does, but people saying it crosses genres with other things, and I'd heard at one point someone say something about it crossing genres with like zombie films and everything, which it doesn't. What came to mind, and I've never seen it, but what it comes to mind for me is kind of like a Western crossed with what I view as things like Cannibal Holocaust. It
sort of.
Yeah, it kind of has that feel to it. And the thing is, though, it has got that classic Western thing of you've got some scenes where the guys, these four characters, are just on making a journey and they're talking, and largely you have the Richard Jenkins character, Chicory, who's the old man who. I didn't recognise him at first. He's one of my favourite actors, and I genuinely didn't recognise him. He looks very different, looks very roughed up, and obviously a Western state. And it's really just engrossing for a lot of those times when a lot of films would handle that badly, and it would be boring, and you'd be sitting there going, "Oh, get on with it, get on to the next bit." And it's not like that. You're sitting there and you're actually listening to it, and there's whole conversations these characters are having, and it's not like Quentin Tarantino dialogue where it's sassy. You have characters where this character is it's like when you listen to someone who is an old expert of something and you have respect for them because of the fact of that what they know and how they've been through. It's like listening to kind of your grandfather or something. And you're sitting there listening and hearing the story or he's talking about, or the random things he's talking about, and it becomes a discussion between him and the other people because they don't have anything better to talk about. They're just there and they're making their way, and they're talking as they go. And it's weird but interesting the way that happens with it. It does build to things happening towards the end, and it gets a little bit more conventional as that goes on, despite there are some very unconventional things without spoiling. But I really was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I did find the beginning of it very slow paced, which did kind of gnaw at me a little for the first half hour. But then after that, I got into it more, and I started to accept the way it was, and I had fun with it, and I liked it, and I thought by the end of it, it was a very nicely handled small film, because it was only made for about $1.5 million, which is nothing for a film like this, and for having a cast like that too.
See, the way I felt about the film itself is, you know how much of a die-hard horror fan I am.
Yeah.
I just felt the horror stuff was completely pointless with the film. It doesn't fit it.
It doesn't have a horror. It's not really horror. It doesn't feel like horror.
It's sort of it's embodied in horror, but it just doesn't fit the film at all, because what happens is it's not even in the last third. It happens in the last 15 minutes of the film itself, because the film is on for just over 2 hours, and so considering adding that element in the last 15 minutes was a bit pointless, because it's just too late to do something like that. And I would have wished that the film itself would have just stuck with its Western roots and just sort of like ended off like that, rather than doing what it does with the last 15 minutes. I don't feel like it fit with the film at all. You've got two separate films. He's got an ending of a different movie attached to this film. And considering I am a horror fan and this is my bread and butter, I love these kind of films where it's all about character development. It takes its time. I found the Western part interesting. I found the horror part pointless.
I can understand that, but I thought it was nicely handled and well put together.
Apart from the last 15 minutes.
Okay, that's it for this week's reviews. We're going to go quickly through. I've only got one TV movie of the week.
Same here.
Yeah. Not a great choice. I mean, there's a lot of films on that we've mentioned before, and there's things like Die Hard's on one of the nights and stuff like that. A lot of classic things. Nothing particularly much that stands out except for this one film for me, which is on Sunday the 19th of June.
Great, mine's not.
No. On film for 11:20 p.m. The Negotiator, which is a film that I really love. It's Kevin Spacey and Samuel L. Jackson facing off against each other in a it's not really an action film, but it's a good thriller, which is sort of a hostage negotiation situation. So I really got into that. It's a long film though, so be prepared for it to run to probably about 2 o'clock in the morning by the time adverts are added to it.
It's fine, because the movie that I've chosen doesn't start until 2 in the morning anyway. It's on very late Thursday night. It's actually now classified as Friday morning, so Friday the 17th on the Horror Channel. It's a film that I've not suggested before, but I definitely recommend you recording, or if you're one of those night hell people, to watch. It's Livid. It's directed by Alexandra Bustillo and Julian Maury. It's one of their directors who, if you're ensconced into horror films, you know who they are. They make very grimy, gritty, nasty kind of French horror movies that were part of the gore-fest French wave. But they make interesting films as well, and this is more of a ghost story centered around 3 people who tried to, very stereotypical movie, break into a house because they discover that there's some kind of valuable item in there, but bad things start to happen with them. But it's told really well, because they are very good at telling characters as well as just throwing lots of gore in your face. So if you're a night owl, or if you've got some kind of recording device, then definitely record Livid. It's on the Horror Channel on Friday the 17th at 2:25 a.m.
Okay, that's it for this week's show. Some information about where you can find us, if other than just listening to the show. You can find us on the web, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can contact us, mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com, by email. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/mondaymovieshow, and you can find us on Twitter at Monday Movie Show. Stuart's on there as well. It's at Cryptic Tadpole. I'm on there at AHDBD. You can also check out some other places that are connected with us, followingthenerd.com and fromPage2Screen.com, as well as Stuart's obviously mentioned earlier about E3. We have the whole thing of that happening, and Following the Gamer will be, I'm not sure when you're doing, because you haven't said to me, but I expect you're doing quite a bit this week.
Tuesday night, my guess is around about 7, 8 o'clock, and it will last for a good few hours.
Yep, so be sure to check that out if you're into your gaming. So that's it for this week. We'll play you out with a clip in a moment, as usual, of an upcoming film. But before that, of course, movie of the week.
Do I need to?
Yeah, okay. Of course, but I'm going to say Deadpool, but I do think 13 Hours is a favourite for me of the week as well.
Yeah, and I have to see it. It is When Marnie Was There.
Yeah. So we're going to leave you with a clip, as I say, of an upcoming film. We have a clip from Tale of Tales, starring Salma Hayek, and it is a nut bar looking film from the looks of it. This clip
what do you expect from the guy who directed Gomorrah? Gomorrah is a bit of a nut bar-y kind of film.
Yeah, but it's honestly crazy. This clip here we have is about a queen who wants to have a child and can't, so of course she goes to see someone seeking help, and it's someone who is maybe a little bit sort of mentally unbalanced, shall we say.
And let's just see her if you've seen the poster, it looks like she's eating a heart.
yeah, this is the whole thing of why. Yes. So we'll leave you until then. We'll be back next week. We'll confirm on MondayMovieShow.co.uk when it will be, but check there for updates, and we'll let you know, and we'll see you next week. So until then, bye bye.
Bye bye.
You want a child? Every new life calls for a life to be lost. The equilibrium of the world must be maintained. Do you understand?
I am prepared to die in order to feel life grow inside me.
We are speaking of possibility, not certainty. Are you willing to accept the risk?
What must we do?
Hunt down a sea monster. Cut out its heart and have it cooked by a virgin, but she must be alone. When your Majesty eats the heart, you will become pregnant instantly.